It seemed too good to be true. Hendrick Motorsports faces huge issues after their dominance at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. The 1-2-3 finish didn't come without some raised eyebrows, and after some thorough research, NASCAR decided to take the cars away for inspection. Whether this is a huge setup by Hendrick Motorsports rivals or indeed a massive cheating scandal, the investigation will tell. But Kyle Larson and Jeff Gordon had a fierce response to NASCAR's actions towards their team. If you want to find out whether Hendrick Motorsports cars were legal, we promise that you'll have the best 8 minutes of your life, so glue yourself to your seat and get ready to be shocked. One of the most dominant performances in NASCAR has been showcased in Las Vegas, where William Byron, Kyle Larson, and Alex Bowman finished in the first 3 places of the placing order. And if that wasn't enough, they continued the dominance in the following race as well. The Friday's practice session at Phoenix Raceway has showcased that a part of Hendrick Motorsports cars, more precisely the hood louvers, is something that needs to be confiscated and further investigated in terms of legality. But what do these hood louvers do in the first place, and why are they such a big deal? Hood louvers are the vents in the hood of each car that serve as a release point for ducts that are transferring air out of the radiator. By using these vents, NASCAR Cup teams dodge the need to tape up the front grille of the car, which has been used heavily as a performance adjustment tool in the previous iteration of the race car. Louvers are indeed a great deal in NASCAR, as they're considered a single source supplied on the next-gen car, and NASCAR did issue severe penalties for alterations to those parts in the past year. What are the penalties that Hendrick Motorsports faces? If we're to judge from the past, one of the most dominant teams in 2023 could lose up to 100 points, 10 playoff points, and a 4-race suspension for the team's crew chief. There are more specific categorizations for these penalties, as modifications to the next-gen single-source vendor parts are usually dropped in the L2 category. Such a penalty could see the driver lose 75 points or a $100,000 fine, along with the 4-race suspension that we mentioned earlier in the video and the 10 playoff points. However, if the penalty is deemed a more severe L3 infraction for modifying a next-gen single-source supplied part, then Hendrick Motorsports' owners and drivers won't be happy with what's coming for them. In the latter case, the team owner or the driver could be fined up to 120 points, 25 playoff points, and a 6-race suspension for particular crew members, and a $250,000 fine. And it seems like NASCAR doesn't believe that the legality of the hood louvers on these 4 cars is something that they shouldn't fear, because they have taken them back to the Research and Development Center in Concord, North Carolina for further evaluation. If the team faces a penalty, then it will be announced as early as next week. When did NASCAR notice that something wasn't right with Hendrick Motorsports' hood louvers? The initial inspection on Friday showed that there is an issue with this particular part, but the sport allowed the teams to utilize them during practice, and after the 50-minute session ended, they were confiscated and taken to the developmental center. Keep in mind that in the practice session, the fastest car on the grid was Kyle Larson, while Alex Bowman was 3rd. Sure, Byron ended up 20th and Barry ended up 23rd, but the fact that William Byron won the 2nd consecutive race and Barry ended in the top 10, with the latter being a replacement for Chase Elliott, many didn't project him to be a competitive driver, with Kyle Petty saying that there was literally no need for Barry to push and crash the car in order to play the hero role. But it seems like the car was so good that there wasn't any way he would miss the opportunity to make a name for himself in Phoenix. NASCAR doesn't like to play games, and apart from Hendrick Motorsports' hood louvers, the ones from Colleague Racing's number 31 Chevrolet, driven by Justin Haley, had been taken away prior to the start of qualifying, and the team was allowed to replace them and take part in time trials. There is an old saying in this sport that goes, if you want to be successful, all you have to do is win races. That has happened with JGR for many seasons, and it seems like this scenario is about to be imposed on Hendrick Motorsports as well. But rest assured that the team isn't willing to fall victim to these accusations, and one of the fiercest voices against what has been currently conducted by NASCAR is Jeff Gordon. Jeff is Hendrick Motorsports' vice chairman, and when talking about the decision of NASCAR to take parts from their cars for further evaluation, he said that it had a great mental impact on the drivers and the entire crew. He gave these comments after Byron was able to secure the 2nd consecutive victory, and after all 4 cars of Hendrick Motorsports were able to finish in the top 10, which is a very rare sight to happen in NASCAR. Gordon has also spoken about the potential penalties that are currently looming over Hendrick Motorsports' heads, as he said, "We had some conversation. We will continue to have conversations with NASCAR. Every situation is sort of unique, but this is a more unique one than I've seen in a while, where there's been a lot of communication back and forth on this particular part, especially for this racetrack, because they did a parity test in the wind tunnel. These guys have great speed in the car. There was nothing, not last week, not this week, that was getting them to victory lane other than a lot of hard work and great teamwork. Obviously, this is something that we all want to believe in, but NASCAR will have the last word in terms of the legality of the hood louvers. Cheating in NASCAR is by far the last thing that you want your team to be involved in, but the confidence that prevails in the other drivers, like Kyle Larson, is giving Hendrick Motorsports fans the assurance that the cars their favorites are driving are totally legal, and this is just another thing that is set to bring down their morale and mental energy. Kyle Larson has spoken about the fiasco that his team is currently going through, and while he didn't give too much attention to these claims, laughing them off, it's evident that the 2021 Cup Series champion could have cared less about the hood louvers being taken off of his and his teammates' cars, as he continued to speak. "No, I mean, I don't know anything about a race car anyway, so I had to ask what a louver was," but joking a little bit there. Joking about this situation is definitely the right mindset that the drivers and the fans want to see prevailing. And with Larson saying that it's not his job to worry about situations like this, the fans have been given reassurance that although their team could face severe penalties that would give them a legitimate blow to their championship hopes, this is just a small obstacle along the way. Larson also said that the team is not concerned at all about the potential outcome of the investigation, as they are currently looking towards the next race and continuing the dominance. Even more so when Elliott comes back from the gruesome injury he's had on his leg after snowboarding. So even though this is a very serious thing ongoing for Hendrick Motorsports drivers, the fact that the team performed better even without the confiscated louvers goes on to show that this could be just a cheap try from NASCAR to stop the dominance of a team that seems to give us a very boring season ahead. Bob Pockras, one of the most renowned journalists in the NASCAR world, said that Chad Knaus, the team's vice president of competition, declined to comment pending more extensive conversations with NASCAR. But according to his understanding from talking to other teams, some louvers that were delivered by the NASCAR supplier didn't meet the specifications, hence the confiscation. Situations like this one happened in the past, and we don't have to look that far to find a similar one. In 2022, Brad Keselowski from RFK Racing and Team Penske got their wheels confiscated after having spotted evidence of altered drive pinholes at the opening race of the Daytona 500. However, after a thorough investigation and after RFK Racing and Team Penske made the case that they made safety-related modifications that were permitted under the new rules developed for the next-gen car, NASCAR accepted the explanation from both teams and decided not to penalize either one. With that being said, what do you think about the legality of Hendrick Motorsports' louvers? Do you think that something is cooking in the background? Let us know in the comments below. Furthermore, if you want to see more NASCAR-related content, make sure you click the logo icon on your screen and subscribe to stay in the loop.